I found a lighter in Victoria's car that wasn't mine. Small thing, chrome-plated, expensive-looking, with initials I didn't recognize. She doesn't smoke. Neither do I. I held it between my fingers for a moment before sliding it back under the passenger seat, exactly where I found it. That was 3 weeks ago. Before we get into the worst part of this betrayal, please subscribe, leave a like, comment, and tap that hype button to support the channel. Since then, I've been watching. Not obsessively, not desperately, just carefully. The way you watch a puzzle coming together, piece by piece. Victoria had always been confident, almost aggressively so, but lately she'd become careless. Her phone face down constantly. Her schedule filled with meetings that ran late, events that required overnight stays, wellness center inspections that somehow always happened on weekends. I'm a social worker. I spend my days helping people navigate systems designed to crush them. I know how to read body language, spot inconsistencies, recognize when someone's lying. It's not glamorous work, and it sure doesn't pay like Victoria's wellness empire. But it taught me patience. It taught me how to wait. The college reunion photos showed up on a Thursday. Victoria was tagged in maybe 30 pictures from some alumni weekend at a resort outside Houston. I scrolled through them during my lunch break, sitting in my car outside the community center where I work. Most were generic. Groups of people holding drinks, forced smiles, that artificial enthusiasm people manufacture for social media. Then I saw the ones with Garrett Pierce. She was leaning into him in one photo, her hand on his chest. In another, his arm wrapped around her waist, fingers spread possessively across her hip. Their heads tilted together, laughing at some private joke. The kind of body language that screams intimacy to anyone paying attention. I knew Garrett peripherally. He ran investment seminars, those slick operations that promise ordinary people extraordinary returns if they just sign up for his courses. $5,000 for the basic package, $15,000 for the premium. He drove a leased Mercedes and wore watches that cost more than my monthly salary. Everything about him was performance, carefully calculated to project success. I saved the photos to a folder on my phone and went back to work. That evening, Victoria came home around 8, carrying shopping bags from stores I couldn't afford to walk into. "How was your day?" I asked, stirring pasta at the stove. "Exhausting," she said, kicking off her heels. "Interviews for the new location, then meetings with the contractor. I'm thinking about expanding the spa services at the downtown center." "Sounds ambitious." "That's the goal." She poured herself wine, expensive stuff from her father's collection. "Oh, I might need to travel next month. There's a wellness conference in Santa Fe that could be valuable for networking." "Santa Fe," I repeated. "How long?" 4 days, maybe 5. She scrolled through her phone, not looking at me. "Garrett Pierce is speaking there. You remember Garrett? From college?" There it was. She'd opened the door herself. "Vaguely," I said. "Wasn't he in business school?" "Marketing. He's doing really well now, runs these investment education programs." She smiled, that particular smile people use when they're excited about something they're trying to appear casual about. "I'm thinking about having him do a workshop for my staff, financial literacy, building wealth, that kind of thing." "Generous of you." "It's an investment in my team." She finally looked up from her phone. "Plus, Garrett offered me a discount on his consulting services. He thinks there are opportunities to diversify my portfolio." I nodded, serving pasta onto plates. The lighter in her car suddenly made more sense. So did the new perfume she'd started wearing, the one that cost $300 a bottle. So did the extra attention she'd been paying to her appearance lately, the gym sessions that ran longer than usual. "What kind of consulting?" I asked. "Financial strategy, mostly. He's helping me restructure some accounts to maximize returns." She took a bite, made an appreciative sound. "This is good." "Thanks." We ate in silence for a while. I watched her text someone under the table, watched her smile at whatever response she received. 10 years of marriage, and I could read her like a case file. I saw the reunion photos, I said casually. Her hand froze for just a fraction of a second before continuing to her wine glass. Oh yeah? Everyone looked good, right? Amazing how some people haven't aged at all. Garrett seems friendly. He's always been personable, that's why he's successful. She met my eyes with that practiced confidence that came from growing up as Charles Lancaster's daughter. Why are you jealous? Should I be? She laughed, the sound light, dismissive, practiced, the kind of laugh someone uses when they want to brush off suspicion without directly confronting it. Don't be ridiculous, Brent. I'm networking, building connections. You know how business works. I did know how business worked. I also knew how affairs worked. I'd seen enough of them unravel in my line of work. Families imploding quietly behind closed doors, people rewriting their own narratives to justify what they were doing, convinced they were cunning enough to hide their tracks. They never were. Whether it was arrogance, carelessness, or desperation, they always slipped. Patterns always revealed themselves. But I didn't argue. I didn't show a hint of what I was thinking. Instead, I offered her a polite smile and steered the conversation into harmless territory: office gossip, travel plans, upcoming events. Something shallow, safe, forgettable. Victoria eased almost immediately, shoulders relaxing, voice smoothing back into its usual polished confidence. She probably thought she'd handled the moment gracefully. She hadn't. She'd simply confirmed more than she realized. After dinner, she disappeared into the shower, humming to herself, steam curling out from under the bathroom door. I sat on the bed with my laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating the quiet room, and opened our joint bank statements. It took less than 5 minutes to find exactly what I expected, because people like Victoria always leave financial fingerprints long before emotional ones. $5,000 transferred to Pierce Investment Education LLC 3 weeks ago. Another $1,500 labeled private consultation fees. Then a scattering of smaller telling charges, hotel rooms, high-end restaurants in Houston, a jewelry store whose name meant nothing to me. None of it connected to business, all of it connected to him. I took screenshots, saved them, and sent them to myself through encrypted email. Then I cleared the browser history, closed the laptop, and sat still for a moment, listening to the sound of the shower, letting the truth settle into place. The next morning, I called someone I trusted. Simone Hayes had been a journalist before she became a private investigator, and unlike most people in her field, she wasn't driven by theatrics or ego. She was driven by accuracy, detail, evidence. We'd met years ago when she was working on a piece about community outreach programs, and although we weren't close, we understood each other well enough to maintain a steady and respectful distance. She was the kind of person you called when the stakes were high and the margin for error was thin. "So your wife's having an affair," she said when we met at a quiet coffee shop downtown. Her tone wasn't judgmental, just direct. "And you want documentation." "I want to know exactly what's happening," I corrected, my voice even. "Who, where, how often, and how much money she's funneling his way." "Planning to divorce her?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Planning to be prepared." Simone studied me for a long moment over the rim of her coffee cup. "You're unusually calm about this." "I work in crisis management, just a different kind." I slid the folder across the table, photos, statements, a timeline I'd been assembling piece by piece. "How much for a full workup?" She flipped through the documents, her expression sharpening. "Depends on depth, basic surveillance and financial tracking, 2,000. If you want deeper investigation into this Garrett character, his business, any legal vulnerabilities, we're talking 5. "Do the full package," I said without hesitation. "Bill me in installments if needed." "You got it." She closed the folder with a soft thud. "Give me 2 weeks. One thing," I added. "Everything stays completely legal, nothing sloppy, nothing that can be traced back to me." "Always do," she said. Then she softened, just slightly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're dealing with this." I shrugged. Everyone deals with something. The following week, Victoria announced her big weekend plan, a solo wellness retreat, a chance to reconnect with herself at a boutique resort in the hill country. She said it gently, as if she were offering me a gift. The reservation was under her name, but when I discreetly checked our credit card activity, I saw 2 spa packages booked, not one. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. Simone sent me preliminary findings around that time, and they painted a predictable picture. Garrett Pierce's investment seminars were technically legal, emphasis on technically. He operated on the edge of legitimacy, offering just enough real information to stay out of handcuffs while burying the rest beneath exaggeration, carefully curated testimonials, and empty promises. He bounced from city to city whenever complaints to the Better Business Bureau started piling up. His personal life was even more illuminating. Divorced twice, both divorces contentious. A consistent pattern of overlapping relationships. Someone who treated women like stepping stones rather than partners. Based on recent social media activity and background checks, he was currently juggling at least 2 other women besides Victoria. Victoria believed she was special. She wasn't. She was simply the latest in a long line of people buying into his image. Another carefully groomed mark in expensive shoes, convinced she'd been chosen instead of targeted. Thursday night, before her weekend trip, I came home to find her packing. Designer luggage laid out on our bed, carefully selected outfits arranged by day. "Excited for your retreat?" I asked from the doorway. "Very. I really need this, Brent. Things have been so stressful lately." She folded a silk blouse, placed it carefully in the suitcase. "Sometimes you just need space to clear your head, you know." "Sure. You'll be okay here by yourself?" "I'll manage." She zipped the suitcase, testing its weight. "I'll have limited cell service. The resort is pretty remote, but I'll text when I can." "No problem." I watched her choose which jewelry to bring, settling on pieces I'd given her for anniversaries and birthdays. Something about that felt particularly insulting. "Drive safe." Friday morning, she left early. I watched from the window as she loaded her car, checking her appearance one final time in the side mirror before pulling away. I gave her 30 minutes, then made a phone call. "It's confirmed," Simone said. "She just checked into the Hillside Haven Resort, room 212. Garrett Pierce checked into the same resort 20 minutes before her, room 214. Adjacent rooms. Connected rooms, actually, shared balcony. Perfect. I pulled up the resort's website on my laptop. "Can you get me the booking confirmation details?" "Already in your email. Both rooms are under Victoria's credit card. She paid for everything." Of course she did. Garrett was smart enough to let his targets finance their own affairs. I spent the weekend building my strategy. Simone provided detailed surveillance, photos of Victoria and Garrett having meals together, walking the resort grounds hand in hand, entering and leaving each other's rooms. Nothing explicit, but the pattern was unmistakable. More importantly, Simone dug deeper into Garrett's operation. His seminars relied heavily on testimonials from early participants who'd been given kickbacks to provide positive reviews. His investment advice violated several SEC guidelines without quite crossing into prosecution territory. Multiple former associates had distanced themselves after deals went bad. The man was a house of cards held together by charisma and other people's money. Monday evening, Victoria returned home glowing. "How was it?" I asked, helping her with her luggage. "Absolutely rejuvenating. I feel like a new person." She kissed my cheek, her good mood genuine. "We should go together sometime. The resort was beautiful." "Maybe next time." That night, while she slept beside me, I finalized my plans. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about precision. Victoria's father, Charles Lancaster, owned half the commercial real estate in Austin and had his fingers in everything else. City council members took his calls. Judges played golf with him. Prosecutors depended on his campaign contributions. For 33 years, Victoria had lived under that umbrella of influence, confident that Daddy's power would solve any problem she encountered, which made what I discovered on Tuesday morning particularly interesting. Simone called at 7 a.m. "Turn on the news." I grabbed the remote, flipping to the local station. The headline scrolling across the bottom made me sit up straight. Prominent developer Charles Lancaster under federal investigation. The anchor's voice was professionally neutral. Federal prosecutors have launched an investigation into potential tax fraud and money laundering involving several Austin area development projects. Charles Lancaster, CEO of Lancaster Properties, has been named in the probe, which sources say has been ongoing for nearly 2 years. "They're moving fast," Simone said on the phone. "Asset freezes are already in place for several of his accounts. His lawyers are scrambling." "How bad is it?" "Bad enough. If the charges stick, we're talking serious time and massive financial penalties. His empire's about to crumble." "And Victoria's businesses?" "Several are financed through her father's holdings. If those assets get frozen in the investigation, she loses access too." Perfect timing. I hadn't planned this. Couldn't have planned something this big, but sometimes the universe hands you exactly what you need. Victoria didn't see the news until mid-morning. I was at work when she called, her voice shaking. "Brent, have you seen what they're saying about my father?" "Just saw it. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay. This is insane. It's obviously a mistake. They're targeting him because he's successful." The panic in her voice was real. "I need to go see him. My lawyer, too. This is going to destroy everything." "What about your businesses?" A pause. "I don't know yet. I have to figure out what's frozen and what isn't. This is a nightmare." "Want me to come home?" "No, stay at work. I'll handle it." She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my office, processing the implications. Victoria's entire identity was built on her father's foundation. Her wellness centers, her social status, her confidence. All of it traced back to Lancaster money and Lancaster connections. If that disappeared, what was left? Simone sent me updates throughout the day. The investigation was extensive, involving multiple properties and shell companies. Prosecutors had documentation going back 5 years. Charles Lancaster's legal team was good, but this wasn't something that would go away quietly. By Wednesday, the full scope became clear. Multiple bank accounts frozen. Several properties seized pending investigation. Lancaster's name was suddenly toxic, which meant Victoria's name carried the same stain. I watched her unravel over the next few days. Phone calls with lawyers, meetings with accountants, desperate attempts to separate her businesses from her father's legal troubles. She barely slept, surviving on coffee and anxiety. "How bad is it?" I asked Thursday night, finding her surrounded by financial documents at the dining room table. "Bad." She rubbed her eyes, exhausted. 3 of my accounts are frozen because they're linked to my father's holdings. I can't access operating capital. I might have to close the new location before it even opens. "I'm sorry." She looked at me. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in months. "You're being surprisingly supportive about all this." "You're my wife. Why wouldn't I be supportive?" Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or recognition of how little she deserved my support. But then, her phone rang, and the moment passed. Friday afternoon, I printed the divorce papers. Simple, straightforward, no-fault dissolution of marriage. I'd already moved money from our joint accounts into a separate account she couldn't access. Not all of it. I wasn't trying to clean her out, but enough to protect myself. The timing was crucial. Victoria's foundation was cracking, her safety net disintegrating. She was vulnerable in a way she'd never been before. Saturday evening, Victoria was hosting a charity event at one of her wellness centers. Some fundraiser for local arts programs, the kind of thing she used to love. An opportunity to network, to be seen, to remind everyone of her social position. She'd tried to cancel it after her father's indictment, but the organizers had pushed back. Too many people already committed, too much money already spent. She wore armor in the form of a designer dress and perfect makeup, but I could see the cracks underneath. "You're coming, right?" she asked while getting ready. Wouldn't miss it. The event was well attended despite the scandal. People loved watching the mighty fall, and Victoria's situation provided excellent gossip material. I could see it in their eyes, sympathy mixed with schadenfreude, curiosity about how she'd handle herself. I waited until the evening was in full swing, guests mingling with drinks, soft music playing in the background. Victoria was holding court near the bar, maintaining her composure through sheer force of will. I approached her with the divorce papers in a manila folder. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" She glanced at me, annoyed at the interruption. "Kinda busy here, Brent." "It's important." Something in my tone made her excuse herself from her conversation. We moved to a quieter corner, away from the main crowd. I handed her the folder. "I need you to sign these." She opened it, scanned the first page, and her face went pale. "Are you serious right now?" "Completely." "Brent, this is not the time. I'm dealing with my father's situation, my businesses are on the edge, and you're serving me divorce papers at a charity event?" "Actually, the timing is perfect." Her expression shifted from shock to anger to something like disbelief. "You can't divorce me. My father owns this town. One call and your life becomes very complicated." I smiled. "Your father is currently under federal indictment. His assets are frozen. His influence is gone. You want to tell me again how protected you are?" The realization hit her like cold water. For the first time, Victoria understood that her safety net had disappeared. "This is because of Garrett," she said quietly. "You know." "I've known for weeks. The affair, the money you've been funneling to him, all of it. Then why wait until now? Because now you can't hide behind Daddy's power. Now you actually have to face consequences." I leaned closer. "Sign the papers, Victoria. It's over." "I won't." Her voice shook, but held defiance. "You can't prove anything about Garrett, and without my father's situation, you'd have nothing." "I can prove everything about Garrett, every payment, every hotel room, every lie. But more importantly, I can make your life significantly worse than it already is." "How?" She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "What can you possibly do to me that hasn't already been done?" I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo Simone had taken. Victoria and Garrett on the resort balcony, his arms around her, her head on his shoulder. "These go public tomorrow unless you cooperate. Every news outlet, every social media platform. Your reputation won't just be damaged, it'll be destroyed." "You wouldn't. Try me." We stood there, locked in a silent battle. Around us, the charity event continued, oblivious to the destruction of a marriage happening in the corner. Finally, Victoria took the papers. "I hate you. You'll get over it." I handed her a pen. "Sign." She didn't sign. Not that night. Instead, Victoria stormed out of the event, leaving me with a room full of curious guests and unfinished business. I stayed, made polite excuses about stress, and watched the gossip spread like wildfire. By Sunday morning, half of Austin knew the Caldwells were getting divorced. Caroline Dunn, the PR manager who'd been friends with Victoria, sent me a message Sunday afternoon. "Is it true? I'm hearing things." "It's true," I replied. "We're separating." Within hours, Caroline had shared that information with her network, which meant Victoria's carefully constructed social image was crumbling from multiple directions at once. Monday morning, Simone called with an update. "Garrett Pierce is freaking out. He's canceling seminars, avoiding phone calls. I think he knows something's coming. Good, let him panic. What's your next move?" "Confrontation, but on my terms." Garrett ran a seminar Tuesday evening at a hotel conference room downtown. "Unlocking your financial potential. Another recycled presentation promising easy wealth to desperate people. I paid the entrance fee and sat in the back row, watching him perform. He was good, I had to admit. Confident, charismatic, selling dreams with practiced ease. The audience ate it up, taking notes, nodding along, seeing themselves in his manufactured success stories. During the break, I approached him. "Garrett Pierce?" He turned, professional smile already in place. "That's me. Enjoy the presentation?" "Not really. Seems like a lot of empty promises." His smile tightened. "Investing is always a risk. I teach people how to minimize that risk while maximizing returns. By charging them $5,000 for information they could find online for free." "Who are you?" "Brent Caldwell, Victoria's husband." The color drained from his face. He recovered quickly, but not quickly enough. "Victoria's a client. We have a professional relationship." "Right, professional." I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. "How many other clients do you take on weekend getaways? How many get the connected rooms with the shared balcony?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." I pulled out my phone, showed him one of Simone's photos. "You're sloppy, Garrett. Careless. You thought you were safe because Victoria had money and connections. But her father's influence is gone, which means your protection is gone too." He glanced around nervously, checking if anyone was listening. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something." I pocketed my phone. "You picked the wrong marriage to wreck. Victoria will survive this probably. She's got resources, even with her father's problems. But you're operating on borrowed credibility. One bad story, one viral expose, and your entire operation collapses." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm promising you. Stay away from my wife. Stop taking her money. Disappear from Austin, or I make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are." "You can't prove anything." "Garrett, I can prove everything. Hotels, payments, messages, all of it documented." I smiled. "How many people in this room right now are here because they trust you? What happens when they find out you're a fraud who preys on vulnerable people?" His jaw clenched. "Get out of here." "Gladly. Just remember what I said." I left before he could respond. Behind me, I heard him try to restart the seminar, his voice slightly shaky, the confidence fractured. "Wednesday morning," Victoria called. "Garrett told me you threatened him. I had a conversation with him. There's a difference. Brent, this needs to stop. Whatever revenge fantasy you're living out, it's gone far enough. Sign the divorce papers. No, then it hasn't gone far enough." I hung up. That afternoon, I visited Caroline Dunn at her office. She worked in a trendy space downtown, all exposed brick and modern furniture. "Brent, hi." She seemed uncomfortable. "I heard about you and Victoria. That's actually why I'm here." I sat across from her. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to promise you'll keep it confidential." "Of course." I proceeded to tell her a carefully edited version of the truth. Victoria's affair with Garrett, the money she'd been spending, the lies she'd been telling. I positioned myself as the sympathetic victim, the loyal husband betrayed by his ambitious wife. Caroline listened, her expression shifting from shock to sympathy to something like vindication. She and Victoria had been drifting apart lately, their friendship strained by Victoria's increasing self-absorption. "That's awful," she said when I finished. "I had no idea." "Most people don't. Victoria's good at hiding things." I paused. "I'm telling you because I know you'll be discreet. I trust you." Nothing guarantees a story spreads faster than asking someone to keep it confidential. By Thursday, the details of Victoria's affair were circulating through her social network. Not maliciously, necessarily, but as concerned whispers, shared confidences, the kind of gossip that destroys reputations slowly but thoroughly. Victoria called me Friday morning, furious. "Everyone knows. Everyone is talking about me and Garrett." Probably shouldn't have had an affair then. You did this. You're deliberately sabotaging me. I'm just letting the truth come out. If that's sabotage, maybe the problem isn't me. I'll sign your papers. Is that what you want? Fine. I'll sign them. Too late. What? You had your chance Saturday. You refused. Now the price has gone up. Brent, please. My businesses are failing. My father's probably going to prison. Everyone thinks I'm a terrible person. Isn't that enough? Not yet. I hung up and immediately called Simone. Time for phase 2. Garrett Pierce's seminar scheduled for Saturday was sold out. 40 people paying $5,000 each, $200,000 total. His biggest event yet, marketed as an exclusive intensive workshop on wealth building. I made sure it never happened. Simone had connections with a consumer protection attorney who'd been building a case against predatory investment schemes. I provided him with everything we'd gathered on Garrett: misleading testimonials, violated SEC guidelines, angry former clients. He moved fast, filing complaints with multiple regulatory agencies Friday afternoon. By Saturday morning, Garrett's bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. His seminar location received notice from city officials about permit violations. His website was flooded with negative reviews from former clients who Simone had quietly contacted and encouraged to speak up. The Saturday seminar was canceled. 40 angry people demanded refunds. Garrett scrambled to respond, but his credibility was shattered. I showed up at his apartment Saturday afternoon. He answered the door, looking exhausted, defeated. You, he said flatly. Me. I pushed past him into the apartment. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. I turned to face him. Your operation is finished. The investigations alone will tie you up for months, and even if you escape prosecution, your reputation is destroyed. No one will trust you again. What do you want from me? I want you to tell Victoria the truth. What truth? That she was never special, that you've run this same con on dozens of women, that everything you told her was a performance designed to separate her from her money. He laughed bitterly. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure the investigation expands to include fraud charges. I have documentation of everything you told Victoria, every promise you made, every lie you sold. That's not just unethical, it's criminal. We stared at each other. Garrett was a con artist, but he wasn't stupid. He knew when he'd lost. Fine, he said finally. I'll tell her. Today, right now, call her. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, dialed Victoria's number. She answered on the second ring. Garrett, are you okay? I heard about the seminar. Victoria, stop. His voice was flat, emotionless. I need to tell you something. I put the phone on speaker so I could hear both sides. What's wrong? Everything we had, everything I told you, it wasn't real. You were a client, nothing more. I tell all my clients they're special, that we have a connection. It's part of the service. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, what are you saying? I'm saying you weren't unique. You were just another woman with money who wanted to feel important. I gave you that feeling because it was profitable. You're lying. Brent's making you say this. No one's making me do anything. I'm telling you the truth because it doesn't matter anymore. My business is finished. My reputation is destroyed. So here's the truth. I never loved you. I barely even liked you. You were income, nothing else. Garrett, don't call me again. He hung up. We stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Garrett looked at me. Satisfied? Getting there. I headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. You're leaving Austin. Find another city, another scheme, whatever. But you're gone by end of the month. Or what? Or I send everything to the FBI and let them sort it out. Your choice. I left him standing in his apartment, probably planning his escape. Victoria didn't call me that day. Or Sunday. Monday morning, I received an email from her lawyer. She'd signed the divorce papers, No contestation, no demands, just her signature and a request for expedited processing. I forwarded it to my own lawyer with instructions to proceed. Tuesday, Victoria called. Can we meet? Why? Because I want to talk, face to face. No lawyers, no drama, just talk. We met at a coffee shop Tuesday afternoon, neutral territory. She looked different, smaller somehow, the confidence stripped away, leaving someone I barely recognized. Thank you for coming, she said. I nodded, waiting. I signed the papers. I know. My father's probably going to prison. My businesses are failing. Everyone I know thinks I'm a terrible person. She stirred her coffee mechanically. You got what you wanted. Did I? Didn't you? I'm destroyed, completely, utterly destroyed. Isn't that enough revenge? I considered the question. It was never about revenge, Victoria. It was about consequences. You spent years protected by your father's influence, convinced that power made you immune to responsibility. You had an affair, spent our money on your lover, lied to my face repeatedly, and the whole time you thought you'd get away with it because Daddy would fix everything. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you've actually grasped what you did. You didn't just cheat. You disrespected me, disrespected our marriage, treated me like an obstacle to navigate rather than a person who deserved honesty. She was crying now, quietly. I'm sorry. I believe you, but sorry doesn't change anything. So what happens now? Now we move on, separately. You rebuild whatever you can from what's left. I continue my life without you in it. Just like that? Just like that. She wiped her eyes. I really did love you once, before everything got complicated. I know. I loved you too. I stood to leave. Take care of yourself, Victoria. I walked out of the coffee shop and didn't look back. The divorce finalized 6 weeks later. Victoria kept her wellness centers, what remained of them after closures and downsizing. I kept the house, most of our savings, and my self-respect. Charles Lancaster pled guilty to multiple counts of tax fraud and money laundering. He received a 5-year sentence and massive fines. The Lancaster empire collapsed, assets seized, properties sold. Victoria's main source of financial and social backing evaporated completely. Garrett Pierce left Austin in March. Simone tracked him to Phoenix, where he was apparently attempting to rebuild his seminar business under a slightly different name. Good luck to him. Someone else's problem now. Caroline Dunn reached out a few times, checking on me, making sure I was okay. I appreciated it, but kept my distance. I wasn't looking for new complications. One evening in April, I was leaving work when I saw Victoria across the street. She was coming out of a small office building, looking tired but functional. We made eye contact for a moment. She gave a small nod. I nodded back. Then we both kept walking. That felt right somehow. Not closure exactly, but acknowledgement. We'd both survived our own destruction. I went home to my empty house and didn't feel lonely. Instead, I felt clean, free. The weight of a failing marriage lifted, the exhausting performance of normalcy finally over. Simone called that night. How are you doing? Better than expected. Good. You earned it. She paused. For what it's worth, I think you handled everything remarkably well. Calculated but not cruel. Effective but not excessive. Thanks. After we hung up, I sat on my porch with a beer, watching the neighborhood wind down for the evening. Somewhere out there, Victoria was probably doing the same thing, processing her own losses, figuring out how to rebuild. The lighter was still in my desk drawer. I'd kept it as a reminder, physical evidence of the moment everything changed. Now it just seemed pointless, a relic of a marriage that no longer existed. I threw it away. May brought warmer weather and new cases at work, a teenager aging out of foster care who needed housing assistance, a family facing eviction who qualified for emergency aid, a veteran trying to navigate disability benefits. Real problems, real people, real solutions. The work mattered in ways my marriage never had. Victoria sold her downtown wellness center in June. The market was tough, but she found a buyer willing to take a chance. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, she was planning to leave Austin entirely. Fresh start somewhere else, far from her father's shadow and her own damaged reputation. I didn't judge her for running. Sometimes geographical distance was the only way to truly move forward. The one time we spoke after the divorce was accidental. Grocery store parking lot, both of us loading our cars. We exchanged awkward hellos. "You look good," she said. "Thanks. You too." She hesitated, like she wanted to say something more, then just shook her head. "Take care, Brent." "You too, Victoria." We got in our separate cars and drove away. That was the last time I saw her. Caroline told me later that Victoria had moved to Denver, found work consulting for a small wellness company, nothing glamorous but stable. She'd cut contact with most people from Austin, including her father, who was serving his sentence at a federal facility in West Texas. It sounded like a hard life, but not an impossible one. She'd survive. She always had been tougher than people gave her credit for. As for Garrett, Simone sent me an article in July. His seminar business in Phoenix had imploded after several clients filed lawsuits. He'd disappeared again, probably operating under yet another name in yet another city. Some people never learned. August marked a year since I'd found the lighter in Victoria's car. A full cycle: discovery, investigation, confrontation, resolution. It felt distant now, like something that had happened to someone else. I was different too, harder in some ways, more careful about trust, but also clearer about boundaries, more confident in my judgment. I'd navigated crisis before in my professional life, but handling my own personal disaster had taught me things therapy and training never could. The interview with Austin Community News ran in September. Small piece, nothing dramatic, just honest reporting about community outreach work. Several people reached out afterward, former clients thanking me, colleagues expressing respect, strangers wanting to know how they could help. It felt good, not triumphant or victorious, just quietly satisfying. I'd helped people. That mattered more than anything that had happened with Victoria. October brought the first cool weather. I'd started hiking on weekends, exploring trails outside the city, enjoying solitude without loneliness. The divorce had taught me that being alone and being lonely were different things. November marked the anniversary of Victoria's charity event, the night I'd confronted her with divorce papers. A year later, I barely recognized the person I'd been that night. Angry, determined, focused on destruction. Now I was just focused on construction, building a life that worked, relationships based on honesty, work that mattered. Victoria texted me on New Year's Eve. Simple message: "Happy New Year, I hope you're well." I replied, "You too, take care of yourself." That was enough. No lingering resentment, no need for further closure. We'd both moved on to separate lives, separate futures. Victoria was apparently doing well in Denver. Caroline had spoken to her recently, said she sounded stable, focused, maybe even content. Her father would be released in a few years. Maybe they'd rebuild their relationship, maybe they wouldn't. Either way, not my concern anymore. Garrett had resurfaced in Sacramento, back to his old tricks. Someone would eventually take him down again. His type always collapsed eventually. But none of that affected me anymore. I'd extracted myself completely from their dysfunction, built walls strong enough to protect my peace. March brought warmer weather and the conclusion of Charles Lancaster's asset liquidation. Everything sold, everything distributed to creditors and victims. The Lancaster name, once synonymous with power and influence, now just another cautionary tale. Victoria inherited nothing. According to Caroline, she didn't seem bothered. She'd built something small but stable in Denver, independent of her father's shadow. Maybe losing everything had been exactly what she needed. April marked 18 months since I'd found that lighter. Long enough that the pain had faded to background noise, barely noticeable unless I actively focused on it. One evening, I was cleaning out old files when I found the folder containing Victoria's evidence. Photos, bank statements, surveillance reports, the entire documentation of a marriage's collapse. I shredded everything. Didn't need reminders of destruction when I'd already built something new. I'd fought my battle, won my war, claimed my victory. Now I was just living my life. And that, finally, was enough.